down there.
He's just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. He gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's fucking terrible.
Good day, race fans, and welcome to the Intentional Wreck Podcast, the podcast made by race fans for race fans, from the casuals to the lifelong gearheads. My name is Jeff. I'm here with my fellow co-hosts Corey and Finn. We are all three reunited again. Last week, I hope you caught the bit that Finn and Corey did, just breaking down some of the SHR news and what was going on, and the posting of the Spirit Halloween sign on the HQ, some of the other bits that were happening around in the news that were uncertain. Things were floating around. Rumor mill was swirling. We've been entering what a lot of people are referring to as the silly season right now. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on within the NASCAR world. So just in general, information has been coming in at just a rapid pace, and trying to filter signal and noise and getting everything, into a concrete bucket is somewhat difficult right now, but we're trying to make sure that we're just settling on what is actually there and making sure we know what is speculation, what isn't. I appreciate you guys knocking that out last week, and I'm sorry to any of the listeners for that I could be there, or I'm happy for you if I wasn't there, depending on your feelings in general about how things go here. Regardless, though, we've got a lot that we want to talk about because we had a get-together down in Charlotte, and we had plenty of awesome goings-on down there. As we had made clear before, Finn is now down in North Carolina since before this season had started, so he hasn't been to... So the Richmond races and everything else, that's been me and Corey primarily. We all got to reunite, get together, and have a really good time a couple weeks ago down in Charlotte. We're going to recap that. We've got some talk about the Gateway race. We're also going to talk about what's going on with the waiver with Kyle Larson and any other, bits and bobs news-wise that's been going on. And, with that, generally, I want to start things off and get y'all's perspective on what you thought of just, Corey, you and I, first trip to Charlotte. What did you think? Finn, you've been to Charlotte numerous times. How does this stack up? And then we can kind of talk about some of the outside fun stuff that we did around the race, and then we'll get to the actual Coke 600 itself.
First of all, I mean, anyone watching this probably knows this, but Charlotte is NASCAR Mecca. I mean, it is NASCAR everywhere. 95 have their headquarters there. It's like you just get into town and it's just got a different vibe. Like, this is their sport. Like, I know they have the Panthers and they have a couple of different sports teams and stuff, but it's like Charlotte is NASCAR and NASCAR is Charlotte. The city just lives and breathes it, and it's very cool. Like, the sidewalks or the crosswalks are painted with checkered flags, and it's like it's very cool. Like, you're driving down the highway coming into the city, and on the attraction sign, it has Hendrick Motorsports or Trackhouse Motorplex or something like that, right? So it was very cool as a new fan to kind of really immerse myself in the NASCAR culture, for lack of a better word. I mean, the city just exudes it.
And the Jeff Gordon Memorial Highway, the
Jeff Gordon,
the Smith Boulevard
freeway,
they just all kinds of stuff.
And just especially for me, getting to kind of really get a feel for the history of what it means to that city, and just how big the sport really is now compared to what it was, at its most grassroots level. It was a really super cool experience. I mean, I don't know if you want me to go into specifics or not, but I mean, let's start with
the Hall of Fame. What was your guys' thoughts on that? And maybe your favorite part?
I mean, for me, it was really cool. First walking, I knew the Hall of Fame was going to be awesome when we walked in, and it was here's the Kevin Harvick exhibit. and here's these 6 badass Kevin Harvick cars just in the lobby, just right there. Like, we weren't even really in the Hall of Fame yet. And they just, from the minute you walk in the place, they just immerse you in it. And it was really cool. You get to get right next to the cars and look inside and see the damage that was left on the cars from the races and everything. It's like, going to the Hall of Fame was a very, very cool experience. We did the simulator, but like, that, of course, Nick smashed us, and like it
Smashed you guys. I was within 2 seconds. Let's be clear.
But I mean, we did the pit crew challenge. Me, Jeff, and Nick, and me and Jeff did and me and Jeff. For those of you that know or don't know, Jeff and I have backgrounds in broadcasting and event production and stuff like that. So it's like we got to do our little put the headphones on, and I'm running the video board, and Jeff's calling a race, and it was just like a very nerdy, sports fan fun experience that, having been to Canton myself in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the NASCAR Hall of Fame blows it out of the water. Like, it's not even close. It was just a really cool experience. If you're a NASCAR, if you're a race fan, I cannot recommend enough. Take some time and go down to the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
What's your thoughts, Jeff?
I absolutely agree. For me, it's to not echo everything Corey said. I completely agree with on all counts, but the immersion factor, that one of the things that was really cool is just like Corey said, when you first walk in, there's enough to see. Like, I mean, hell, we must have been in that main lobby between the theater that's there when you first walk in after you get all of your you get your lanyard and punch in your information and everything. And then just there's a theater when you walk in that does a really nice little, presentation that goes over some of the history and just kind of does a nice little opening. It's a really good appetizer for when you first walk in. And then right out there in the lobby, there must have been 20 cars, trucks, and other exhibits regarding that, just on a large, beautiful, well done kind of archway. I don't know how else to describe it, that circles around the opening lobby. It's just so cool. You could see so many different awesome things. Some of the things that stood out for me: the original Wrangler #2, Dale Earnhardt's car, the color changing 24 from Jeff Gordon, Bubba Wallace's 43 truck when he was in the truck series,
right,
and multiple eras of car, and the ability to kind of take a look at some of the different cars themselves. Just like Corey said, you could see some of the scratches and aspects from the wrecks. You get to see the cockpits. They're completely unchanged. They took them from the track and put them right there and kept them polished. They're not dusty,
Right.
Everything looks wonderful. And then the other parts that I really thought were just great. The staff was very helpful. The experience there was awesome in general. Like, all the shout outs in the world for the folks down there that run the place, because they do a great job. But the other thing that I really like is they laid it out in a really nice way. So one of the areas you go into that I thought was really cool, that I could have spent hours in, is when you actually go see the Hall of Fame busts. Everything is presented in its own channel. There's screens surrounding the entire upper area, broadcasting presentations about inductees and information and history. And then you have audio and visual exhibits for every single bust in that Hall of Fame. And you can see a presentation on every single entry that's ever been there. I know for me, I flocked right to the Joe Gibbs, to the bust to watch that, the Bobby Labonte bust, Dale. Those were some of the ones that I knew I had to see. The other things that I thought were cool, it's 4 levels of just full on history and immersion. Yeah. And they treat everything with plenty of respect, but they also create a level of respect for those who are there to see it, if that makes sense. In that there's plenty of space for egress. There is plenty of space to have things displayed in a way that they're not so jam-packed together that you miss everything. They create an atmosphere in which you can see, you could spend multiple days there and still, miss something here and there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, if I can just tack on, I mean, obviously, we could go all day about our experience at the Hall of Fame. Well, one of the things I want to note, because that was my second time going, is that there was a lot of change. For example, when we went up to the actual Hall of Fame that's got the bust, when I walked in the first time, I was actually kind of blown away. I wasn't expecting it, but it was Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus. Like, they had a Jimmy championship car up there and a whole like thing of Jimmy's awards and rings and Daytona 500s and all the things, all the trophy case. They had a all gold die cast from Goodyear. And then they had a 48 pit box set up with checking out. But when I went there the first time, it was a Matt Kenseth display. And same, you mentioned the Kevin Harvick side of everything. That wasn't down there the first time I went. So they do a good job at keeping things fresh. You guys remember when we went up multiple stairs and there was a whole like a 2 or 3 story high glass exhibit of race suits, and they were all they were Kurt Busch.
Oh, Kurt Busch, that's right. Yeah,
they were all of Kurt Busch's. That was Jimmy. Those were Jimmy's last time I went. So I remember walking away going, oh, cool. And I'm mad at myself. I should have looked for something having to do with SVG. I know they took something from SVG's when at Chicago and put it in there, and I didn't see it. But there's a lot to do. You guys mentioned the pit crew challenge, where one person does the fuel, one person does the lug nuts, and the other person has to jack the car. Getting to call a race and do that. The simulator, I mean, I knew it was coming, but how cool was it to like turn the corner and you just see like on a track laid out like 7 next gen cars, and that's like that's the simulator. You're going to get to sit in the inside of the car with the screen and using the actual like force feedback. I thought it was pretty a good iRacing experience. Obviously, you guys got caught up in the mix, but
I got to hop in the 11, man.
Yeah.
I was in the FedEx 11. That was awesome.
We were in the Kozlowski car, and that explains why Nick was so fast, because there's something going on with that 6 right now that gave us a little extra juice. And
that must be it.
Yeah, Nick did have the fastest lap of the day. I actually got beat out by a 1,000th of a second by somebody, so somebody else was an iRacer for sure. So shout out to that. But how about this? We leave the Hall of Fame. We, after some great wings at, the world famous Buffalo Wild Wings, we head over to Hendrick Motorsports Fan Day, which felt like its own Hall of Fame.
It did.
And the sheer amount of cars that they had there. I mean, I get like you guys aren't Hendrick guys, but I mean, they had, dude, how cool was it to see the Garage 56 car?
Yeah,
that was a big one for me, because I watched so much of that Le Mans race.
Yeah,
like I was invested watching that last year, and that was how many times did I say it? Like, this one made the stop worth it. I mean, like you said, I'm not a big Hendrick guy, but generally the facility itself was just
so impressive,
unbelievable, dude.
Yeah, it's a mecca. It is a mecca to Hendrick Motorsports and just Rick Hendrick in general.
Me and Jeff, Finn,
dude.
Dog, the whole way home, Finn, me and Jeff were like, if the Washington Commanders had facilities like Hendrick Motorsports, they'd never lose a Super Bowl, dude.
Yeah,
like it's wild what they have going on there at Hendrick, man.
And I'm not a fan of Hendrick.
Yeah. I don't dislike Hendrick. I'm not a fan of theirs, but you walk into that place and you're like, the level of detail and precision and just organization, every single detail is exactly what it should be.
Right.
And it's like, that's how they run their race team.
Yep.
The professional sports teams in every sense should aim for what Hendrick Motorsports does at their facilities. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
To see that.
It was
to see an engine build.
Yeah, you guys got to watch the engine build. I asked, because these two disappear, and I'm like, where y'all at? And they were like, we're with the nerds watching these guys build an engine. It's very boring.
Well, but it was exactly, the thing is like that was tailor made for guys like Corey and I, right?
Right.
Like, both of us especially for me. I mean, hell, Corey could have been bored to tears. I wouldn't know. I was immersed, right? I'm sitting there because we went over there and we first start, and like there's not a lot of people over there. It was a small area. It was at their pit practice station, and there's a group of guys from Hendrick out there, just kind of dismantling this engine that's like in full view, and people start to funnel over. I'd say we probably had 25 people or so by the time everything was in full. It was in full blast, right? And they had somebody that was like giving some stuff away, and they were doing some, trying to get people somewhat pumped up. But there's only so much pumping up you're going to do to watch people turn turn a wrench for a while. But it was still fun. They kept things going. I had a fun little bit there when they won. I won a couple of things because just being a naturally loud person and being obnoxious, I started yelling at things, right? Like because they were trying to pump people up. So I'm like chanting stuff and like just, saying some other things. So I ended up getting a little goodie bag with some Havoline merchandise, a little tire pressure sensor and a koozie and a couple things. And then one of the other things that I got, which was just funny, was they were doing raffles and they gave everybody a raffle ticket. And guess who won a 48 Jimmy Johnson Ally hat? It was this guy. So as soon as we're about to roll out, after we watched them put this engine together in, what was it, 24 minutes, Corey?
Something like that. Yeah, it was insane.
From down to the block to fired up at full bore in just over 24 minutes, which was fantastic. So then we get out of there, and I get the Ally hat. And at the time, I was wearing my 11 and wearing any of my JGR merch at the time. And then so I throw on the Ally hat, and I told Corey, I was like, "Don't say shit to Finn. Like I'm not gonna say a word. I'm just gonna wear the hat, and we're gonna go over there." Because we were getting close to Finn's birthday, which happy birthday, Finn. That's officially happened now.
Yep.
And it was coming up there, and I knew right there, I had no use for the 48 Jimmy. Hey, it was cool, but that was your birthday present right there. I was like, I'm gonna give that to Finn. But either way, I put the hat on, and we go back over, and we meet up with the rest of the guys. It took this dude like 35 minutes before he eventually realized I have Ally on the front of my hat. He's sitting 3 feet away from me.
That's funny. I just look at it and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, he's like, what the hell are you wearing? And I'm like, your birthday present. Here you go.
I was like, give it a shit. I was all mad about it.
So,
no, it was good. And that was, again, I would recommend it, even if you're not the biggest Hendrick fan, go there. Check it out. Get to see some. I mean, they did a good job of preserving all of the great cars of the year. I mean, they had the Kyle Larson Kellogg's throwback from Darlington, and then across the shop they had the actual 5.
Prime example. Like seeing that Larson car there was when I was like, okay, they have everything figured out here.
Yeah,
like
it was a week later.
It was a week later. They brought that thing back from the track. Got it into their museum, ready for fan day, had it right in the front. It was perfectly clean. It was in the perfect spot. And it's like, okay, Hendrick Motorsports is doing shit that NFL teams wish they were doing. Seriously. Like, it's no exaggeration. Yeah. They're that good. They are that good.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So that was fun. I think that pretty much did that day, right? I think at that point we it was breweries and vibes for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And then no, we went. Did we race? No, we did kart. So we went. So we went out to the Trackhouse Motorplex that night. What? 7, 8 of us racing, and that was an experience. First, we got there, and I saw how big this track was, this outdoor track, and I went, "Oh my god!" I mean, these things rip 55 miles an hour. Absolutely flying. Great evening too. Like the sun was setting. It was nice and cool. And we get out there, and the first thing I noticed when I got strapped in was I went to turn the wheel, thinking, oh, it's gonna, and it didn't turn for shit. And I went, oh god. And then set in a duh, but there's no power steering. And here's the thing, when we signed up, I thought 10 minutes was gonna be kind of lame for the amount of money. I was like, 10 minutes, that's really not a lot of racing. And then we got out there. And they could have stopped us at halfway and I would have been satisfied. Because we booked back-to-back 10-minute sessions. So we raced. Everybody got out and we're like, oh my God, we're so sore. And you're getting thrown around from the G-forces. And I mean, these things were sliding. These things, there wasn't go-karts that are going too slow for you to no, you really felt like you had to actually lift, and you actually had to. 100%. You were braking, lift and brake.
Your brake.
Yeah.
And how cool was this? Our timing was pretty good because in between, right before we got started, when the session stopped before us, we saw a couple of people that had their own carts. So this place allows you to
professional kart guys. Yeah.
Exactly. So you saw guys in real fire suits with real gear running their own custom carts out on this track and just ripping out there. One of these guys had a 2-speed.
They had to be doing 80 or 90 miles an hour.
It was
Yeah.
and just carving that track up. And thankfully for them, they really like laid down the rubber to make the racing lines to know where you were going to go. But that was a cool piece. The other thing was cool is that since they record all your lap times, you got to see like some of the top lap times of the week. And what did I see? Like I know Kaz Grala was on the list. At least 2 or 3 other
tons
guys
of
that
pros.
are,
John Hunter Nemechek, Justin Haley
Yeah.
was on there. Yeah, tons of. It looks like, and it makes sense. It's a little bit away from Charlotte, so it's like a way for those guys to kind of get away. Not that the Xfinity guys are going to get recognized by any means in terms of being out in public. I think NASCAR drivers are pretty safe to go walking around unless you're a top dog. But a way to get away and do some fun race. SVG was out there 4 days before we were driving around, so. No, that was a sick experience. I mean, great recommendation. I think Jeff, you recommended it. We were going to go to K1, and I've been to K1s and they're fine and they're fun. Something about this one was super fun. So that was a great experience. Next day, Saturday, and, we headed out to. Did we do anything in the morning before the race, or did we just make breakfast and head out to the Xfinity race?
We had Chef Jeff's biscuits and gravy.
Oh, yep, top notch.
And then we packed it up and went to the Xfinity race.
All right, so this was the moment I had been waiting months and months and months for.
I appreciate that about my biscuits and gravy, Finn. Thank you very much.
First of all, the one thing that you guys noted like crazy was the size of the track. Actually, we noticed it on Friday when we were pulling up to Hendrick Motorsports because we had to go around. And I mean, like Coliseum, right? Like, I mean, huge. And that was from the outside. And you guys were making note. You were like, it just keeps going. What is this thing? How did it feel walking through the stands out and to see the size of the track? How did that feel?
It was the first time in a NASCAR race that I felt like I needed binoculars.
Yeah.
Like I've been to Richmond, I've been to Dover. You can kind of see everything you need to see at Richmond and Dover pretty well from just about anywhere in the place. This, like, we were sitting for the Xfinity race
right off
on the exit of 4, and like the entry of 1 is far away. Like it's very far away. So like you need, I don't have very good eyesight anyway. So it's like I kind of needed, like, I could really use a pair of binoculars right now to have any idea what is going on in 2 and down the backstretch, because it was far away.
And how good were the seats? They had taken out all the even rows and kind of just laid them flat with wall. It just felt like there was so much room. Yeah. If you want to get up and walk around, you were fine. If you wanted to walk and talk to people, and because we were staggered on 2 rows. That felt good. The heat was obviously a factor. It was very, very hot. But yeah, I mean, when they took off past stuff and they get up to speed, I knew, like, you guys have been in enough races to got it. They're getting loud. I get that feeling. Then they enter 1 and they're hitting 2 and you hear them from across the track. And it's like, oh shit. They're fucking moving. And then they come around at full speed. And I made sure to look at both of you guys. Jeff's over there going, like, yes, to the gods, like praising the gods of racing, just human sacrifice ready to go. You were just like,
I've ever had the chance to see the cars in person, because having been to Richmond and Dover,
right?
That being the case, the most I've been to is a mile-long track and had different seats at either one, because I've been to both a couple of times. Like, going somewhere where you actually see them open up to a $195, it's a different ball game. And we got 2 experiences with that between Saturday and Sunday, because at the Xfinity race we were on one side of the tri-oval, and then at the Cup race we were over near turn 1. Right. And now, to your point about walking in and seeing everything, and the general idea is, one of the things that does make this a little different, to Corey's point about being able to see like the whole track, is that because of just the general size, there are seats in which you don't see everything, that you don't have some of those same views. Our views for the Cup race, like I would have loved to have been
a little bit higher,
6-7 rows up, and because we were on turn 1 and we were 7-8 rows up, and so we're right on the bank right after the entry to the turn 1. So literally, what our view was out of the tri-oval to the entry of turn 1. All the cars are disappearing. It's like they're driving through a tunnel. and then coming out on their way to 2. And then you see what battle, so I can't tell you how many times during that race I would see what looked like a battle coming up on the tri-oval, and you see 2 guys basically door to door, or someone's getting up on somebody's corner panel and about to potentially make a pass if they can get inside on one. And then I'm like,
and
they're still going.
No, definitely too. And the seats, obviously we're going to talk about the 600, but the 600 later, but the seats that we moved to, between the rain delay, I think those are the perfect seats from where we were. Like, I think if I had to go back, section 235 is where I'm buying tickets for sure. It sucks that they get back going.
Yeah,
but that was
if you want to talk about that,
the whole episode on that.
We'll get to that. But I mean, you guys, they go by at speed, and it's just obvious that it's a little different. And you guys see what I've been raving about when it comes to 1.5 miles. And just how interesting of a scenario it was. Now, in terms of the race, again,
it was a good race.
Very good race. Ty Gibbs and Kyle Busch kind of spent a good chunk of it battling out. And that's another good thing about the Charlotte Xfinity race is you get a lot of guys from Cup going down. So they're duking it out. And then Allgaier comes into the picture in the 7. And then he's quick. And they're, kind of running each other down. Then you got Chase Elliott, who started P30. And he's fighting through the field. We saw some great tire strategy. In fact, I think Chase Elliott won because of tire strategy. There was a call, I guess. Chase had kind of done some weird things. He had pit for. He had decided to stay out when a bunch of folks pit for tires. There was like a caution, like 15 laps before the stage. So everybody went and got tires. He stayed out, even though he dropped. He was able to get tires at the stage break when all of those folks that had gotten tires 10 laps before stayed out, and then he was able to drive through. And then a similar thing happened going into stage 2. And then I believe because of all that and maybe something else, they ended up having late in the race a caution came out. Can't remember exactly who spun. I will say this: the 7 got turned, or not? Yeah, he got turned right in front of us. That was pretty fun to catch. As they're sliding him in the who got him up in the door. 7 came up into somebody. Maybe it was Gibbs. I think it was Gibbs. Yeah. It was Gibbs. But, there was a caution late. That led to Elliott being able to get freshies on. I think the 19, or no, not 19, the 97 was another one of those guys that had fresh tires and was going to be, again, first laps turned at Charlotte. And he's going to be battling for a top 10 with the second freshest tires on the track. That would have been exciting to see, but he got caught up in a wreck with the 19. At the time, Allgaier wrecked. So Allgaier wrecked, and a couple rows back, they stacked up, and he doored the 97. So ruined SVG's day there. That was a guy that I spent a lot of the day watching. Interested to see how he always goes and learns the track. But no, that was, the heat probably played a factor. Multiple grooves. It really set up for the Cup experience on Sunday for sure. Because I feel like we got great racing. We got a full day of racing, and it came down to a Chase Elliott win, which is great because we had 3 Chase Elliott fans with us. So in our group, actually 4, if Jose counts, or Jose's son, Ollie. So Ollie was going for the 9. Jose's a 9 fan. Nate and Nick are both 9 fans. So those guys getting to watch Chase Elliott win. That's not really common, not Elliott wins. Just being able to go to a race and watch your favorite driver win. It's a unique experience. Jeff, I don't know if you were.
Some of us get to go onto victory lane and just get their picture taken with the trophy and the driver.
Just shoulder check Coach Gibbs to get there. NASCAR Hall of Famer Joe Gibbs on his way to throw up a VA.
Throw up a 2 up, 2 down to go stand next to future NASCAR Hall of Famer Denny Hamlin up on the stage.
Jesus. So, but I will say this one thing: the Xfinity race lacked, the Cup race had, and that was atmosphere.
Oh yeah,
you could feel it when we got to the stands on the Cup race. The all the pre-race stuff they do for obviously Memorial Day weekend. Dude, they bring the Chinooks in. They got Fortunate Son playing. They freaking air assault demonstration as those guys repelling. I didn't just begin. I'm ex-military. I did not know that they can do what they did when they picked those guys up. And they bring these Blackhawks in, guys, and they drop the ropes, and I'm thinking, all right, well, it's got to land so you can get back in. No, they drop these ropes. These dudes hook up.
Oh, yeah.
And then they just get picked up and taken out over the stadium. That's chaos to me. I was like, whoa, I was not ready. And they flew right past us when they did it. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's cool, but dude, anytime they bring the C5s in, that's what just if you want to, if you want to get me right in the fields, you bring the big boys in.
Oh yeah.
And when they fly that C5 Galaxy over the shit that you're sitting at, it looks like a skyscraper going over your head. It is crazy.
Dude.
For a chunky plane.
Dude,
so my brother,
they do not look like they should be able to fly, bro. It doesn't make any sense.
Donkey plane guy, Corey.
It's like a battleship floating through the air.
Right.
It's crazy.
And we're in the turn 1 and it flies in over the exit of turn 2, literally right over our heads. Yeah. And my brother Trenton and the guy next to him, Nick, they turn and they look at me and they go, "It's so quiet." And I said, because as it's approaching, you couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Yeah, it's supposed to be." And as soon as I said it, then you heard it. I said, "Then it's the last thing you ever fucking hear in your life." Those things will mess you up. Be careful, right? So, but no, I mean, when they do the stealth bombers, and when those come in, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. I straight up didn't hear that thing. I could see it, can't hear it. It's your brain doesn't register. So, Cup race gets started. I mean, I want to point out something. So obviously the big thing is the double, and Kyle Larson did get his waiver today, if you've not caught that. So whatever the drama was about it, we had a whole hour. That's why we talked about our weekend so much, guys. We had an hour of Kyle Larson waiver talk prepared, but he's got one. So we had to scratch that out and bore you guys with Hall of Fame stories.
I want a minute on that though, because I got some things to say.
For sure. But when it comes to the Cup race, we'll keep it as quick as the Cup race was, thanks to the weather. First of all, how impressive was Allgaier after he was stuck between a lap down? I don't know if he was on equal tires or not. I actually went, my radio was broken, so I had to go get my radio fixed and come back. I didn't rent that thing for $100 for it to not work at the biggest race I've gone to. But, and for what it's worth, way better at the 1.5 tracks, 1.5 tracks. Versus Richmond. Richmond I could barely hear. I don't know if you guys were getting radio, but I could hear everything extremely clearly. It was way better experience with that end, and the monitors to talk to each other. But I come back and the 5 is a lap down behind Byron and Gibbs, and he passes both of them. I have never in my life seen a guy a lap down on equal tires pass the leader. Both top 2. In fact, there was a time they got held up and Byron pulled out to a 1.5, 2-second lead, and Allgaier ran his ass down and passed him. And that was probably what hurts my heart the most, is about the end of the race and the rain, is because Kyle Larson showed up in the most WWE SmackDown fashion of like, by God, is that Kyle Larson's music? As he shows up at the track and he's getting in a fucking hot rod, like a complete rocket ship. McLaren might have tuned this thing out too, because this thing with Allgaier trying to figure out the Cup car was passing the leaders. So yes, they would have had to go back to the back of the field, but 150 laps, Kyle Larson, like everything that transpired in the race, Chris Bell's battles, Keselowski flying low lane past all of these people, Bubba and Denny extremely fast once we got to the night part of the evening. The Hendrick car started to fade a little bit. Bowman was fading a little bit despite being top 5 for most of the day. I really was upset for that because it just felt like we were going to get tuned up to one of the better 600 finishes. Tons of fast cars, a fast Ford, a couple fast Toyotas, and then this wild dog who's going to be driving. I mean, Tyler Reddick showed us that you could drive all the way through the field. How cool is it seeing him run the high line? You mentioned that a couple times.
I can't describe how inhuman Tyler Reddick is.
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense. I watched him for probably I watched exclusively Tyler Reddick for probably the first 50 laps of the race. Yeah. And I'm like, what that guy is doing, he is going so fast, and he is 3 inches from the wall the whole way around the turn. And all I can think to myself is, I freak out going down the highway 75 miles an hour when there's a Jersey wall beside me, right? I get nervous. I'm like, I'm going to give myself a little cushion. This dude is like a robot. at driving a fucking car.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Like I know other guys can do it. I know Larson can do it. I know
Right.
there's other guys that really can just put it right on the wall, but like I've never seen anything like that.
Dude,
That's crazy.
Reddick reminds me so much of Casey Kane. I genuinely like. I mean, the dirt background, the known for driving the high lane, the being so fast, but also not like patient enough to close the race out at the end, willing to junk a fast car. If you were to go back and watch some old NASCAR races, I really think you should go back and focus in on that 9 car, or even at some of his time in the 5. But yeah, that's exactly what it used to be like in the early 2000s. Watching the 600 is Casey Kane on the high lane, absolutely ripping it, versus the 48 on the low lane, being consistent, being fast all night, adjusting the car.
Ask Chris Buescher about Tyler Reddick's patience.
Yeah,
He'll tell you all about it.
So, obviously the rain hits and we try to wait it out, and the NASCAR, it looks, I think we all agree that NASCAR seemed to be ready to rock, that maybe some exterior factors came into play on whether or not. So we get this, Larson doesn't get to race, and of course all week it's been the waiver. So you said you wanted to talk about it.
Okay. I got some things I want to say, and this might surprise some people. So the first thing I'm going to say right now is I, Corey Russell, am a Kyle Larson fan. I have accepted this.
What?
I can't help it. I tried the longest time that I possibly could.
Oh, shit.
That dude comes off humble and kind, and he gets it. He is a fantastic race car driver, and try as I might, I was wrong. I pride myself on being able to raise my hand and say when I am wrong. I was wrong about Kyle Larson. I was. Chase Elliott is a bum. He is overrated. Kyle Larson is great.
That might have been the part that might actually end up being controversial.
I had misdiagnosed it. Kyle Larson is awesome. Right. Chase Elliott is terrible. All right, so we're moving on from that.
No.
That being said, all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm praying that Tom watches this because I'll never hear the end of it. I'm not going to say anything to him, and please don't you guys say anything to him either. So I just want to see if I hear about this. Anyway, I, Corey Russell, rooted for Kyle Larson all day on Memorial Day. I was pulling for that guy. Now, that being said, he should have gotten a waiver. And I will go so far as to say, for all future instances, NASCAR should implement the Kyle Larson rule, which is anytime a driver attempts the double, they should get an automatic waiver in the event that weather or travel prevents them or affects their day in some way.
Right.
So when the Indy 500 got delayed, right? Kyle Larson his waiver should be guaranteed for the 600, in my opinion, right? Because the eyeballs that they're bringing to the sport, I understand that NASCAR's ratings are higher than Indy. I get all of that. But, like, you have to support, because let's be honest, it's not just going to be some random nobody. It's not going to be Justin Haley going to do both, right? It's going to be, and not that I'm not dissing Justin Haley, but he's not Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is the best driver on the best team, right? He has the backing of Hendrick Motorsports. We've been talking about this all through the podcast about the resources and the detail and all this stuff that Hendrick does. Hendrick tried to do something cool for NASCAR fans. And there was a feeling in that place that day of unity. Everyone wanted to see him get in that car, right?
Right.
I believe that when somebody is trying to do something like that has that talent and that ambition and that gumption to go and try something great, that NASCAR should understand what it is that they're seeing and support that driver in making that choice. Ultimately, it's good for NASCAR. If Chase Elliott gets a waiver for breaking his legs snowboarding, Kyle Larson should absolutely get a waiver because the Indy 500 got delayed by rain for a couple of hours.
Bro, Chase Elliott got a waiver when he missed a race from getting suspended for, like, harming Denny Hamlin, or, like, putting Denny Hamlin at extreme rate of harm, right? Like for me, if a suspension like that, right, if a suspended race, like a NASCAR sanctioned suspension, results in you missing a race, that seems like the punishment should be hey man, you missed the race thus. Now, a quick thought. I think what it should do. First of all, I agree with you 100%. Kyle Larson deserved the waiver based on precedent, based on the eyes. In fact, Newgarden has announced that he wants to do the double. So now we got guys that want to come to NASCAR.
Yes.
SVG wins at Portland this weekend. We're going to talk about that in a bit. So Australian supercar driver wins his second NASCAR race. Fantastic. The more exposure that we get to our sport and the more great events and moments that come from it, because I'm going to be honest with you, the Kimi Räikkönen and Kamui coming over, that's been awesome, but they're not making any moments. They're just backmarker driving, which sucks, right? But we've got SVG coming here winning races. We've got
drifting around the track.
Newgarden might get himself a legit ride and a legit. Now, I don't think Newgarden's going to be able to compete because oval racing is so unique. 1.5 mile oval racing is so unique. I do not think he would be able to compete with top 10s because we don't practice. One of the reasons Kyle was able to have one of the reasons Kyle was able to be competitive was because he got like 2 to 3 weekends of practice in.
Yeah.
Right? And even then, why did he fuck up? He fucked up because they don't practice pit stops. So he sped on pit road.
Yeah.
You don't get to practice live restarts. So he fucked up on the green flag of the race and lost a lot of positions. And because of that, he had a deficit. Now, if you watch the race, Kyle was able to pass, got himself up to almost P6, P5, right? Yeah. And was impressive on speed. If Newgarden had as much practice at the 600 at Charlotte, if Newgarden had as much practice as Kyle Larson had for Indy while at Charlotte in the next gen car, I do think Newgarden would be competitive. That is my saying. But NASCAR doesn't do that. He gets 15 minutes and one qualifying lap. That's not you're not going to be fast enough to beat out the top 10 guys. All right, now go, Jeff.
Okay. I have a lot of things. All right, let me address all of this shit right now. So first off, I agree with Corey's points about the waiver. The only thing that I was a little stinky about is I don't know why we're calling that the Kyle Larson rule in particular. So first off,
it should be the double rule.
The double rule, or
sure.
you
take it back.
Larson's not the first one to do the double.
Right.
This is the first time that a driver missed the 600 because of weather at Indy.
So we're going to name it after the one that missed it?
Yes, because that's the point. My point, I don't care what they name it. I don't give a shit if they name it after him. That was just me being verbose. But the point is, if the Indy 500 is delayed by weather, and the driver misses the 600 because they stay to do Indy, that waiver should be granted. Period.
And I agree with that. And the other sentiment that's come out about that I think makes a lot more sense that I would agree is it should be on the table beforehand.
Yes.
If it's you should have to, to me, you should have to declare before the season that you're doing the double. You make the declaration that you're doing the double, and that puts you in the running for that potential waiver to happen. It happens beforehand. There's no question. There's none of the bullshit that's been surrounding this for a while. So that addressed. The other thing is, I don't know if I agree with you about Newgarden on now. There are specific tracks that I would disagree with that on, Finn. And at the Brickyard, I'm going to disagree with the fact that a multi-time Indy 500 champion is not going to be fast, likely in a Penske ride with Penske backing.
Sure.
To run that. Also, not only that, if you were to put him at Iowa, or if you were to put him at you were to put him at Pocono, if you were to put him at other races that Indy has histories with,
right?
That's where I'm at with that. But the only reason that I made a stink face at that in general is hold on now, because you're talking about large backing specifically on a car on somebody that very likely knows the Brickyard. I mean, just
But it will
about as good
always
as
be-
anybody else.
Right, but the
But it
double,
will always be Charlotte.
the doubles
But
at
the
Charlotte.
double is Charlotte.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if you
Right.
say New Garden wants to do the Brickyard 400, totally different scenario, totally different situation.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to learn the bumps, the feel of the track. He just has to
Yeah.
learn the car. But Charlotte is not a track that they race on.
No,
The closest
contention
being is
was
Texas.
the oval factor, not
Right.
just Charlotte.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I
Right.
agree. Yeah.
Right.
Make-
And
make
also
it
the
clear.
amount of off throttle time, right? Is another big thing. Like this, not that the skill set wouldn't come over. I think Newgard absolutely knows how to oval race and has that feel for it. But again, heavier cars, slower cars, more off throttle time, and again, the key thing being a 20-minute practice session and one qualifying lap is all he would get. That's the difference. If he had the
And
whole
handling
weekend,
contact.
yeah. If they, I think he would be fine there. I think he's a racer at heart. But the point is he wants to come over and do a NASCAR race. That's huge.
That'd be amazing.
The huge deal. You know what I'm saying? Like we've had Indy guys. We've had Juan Pablo Montoya. We've had Danica. We've had Tony Stewart and Robbie Gordon. But like the current top dog in Indy, right? Or one of the current top dogs in Indy coming over. I love it. I love it. And that's why I want to see that. Another thing too, NASCAR has the ability, the fun ability to handle this exactly. If they want to make the punishment for missing a race worth it and not have to deal with this waiver shit, don't have a one win and end system. Because the Winston, back when we were the Winston Cup, Corey, it was one win doesn't guarantee you anything because there was no playoffs. Two, right now, you get 40 points for finishing first. And then I think you get some points for extra things or whatever. But you get 40 points in a race for finishing first and then obviously one for last, right? Yep. It used to be 190 is what you got for finish, or like 185 is what you got for finishing first. And then 5 for leading a lap and then 5 for leading the most laps. So a total of, I think, 195 is the most you can earn in a weekend, right? So now Kyle Larson missing a race could send him back 195 points from if second place wins the race and leads the most laps. You know what I'm saying? So now the penalty for missing that is much larger and impacts everything for him. So now he might think twice about prioritizing a non-NASCAR event over. Also, you can also rewrite the waiver system in a way that says, listen, because here's what I was talking to my wife about last night. She's a Kyle Larson fan, and we were kind of explaining it to her. I don't think missing one race in like fucking May should result in you not being able to compete. There's way too much money in this sport. Imagine you commit to a car, to sponsor a car for 15 races. You're putting millions into this car, and then because of some arbitrary rule that you're not able to be a part of at all as a sponsor, the car that you sponsored can't win a championship. Thus, you lose out on earnings, and maybe they don't focus on that car as much in R&D. I don't know what all can play, but there's so many things that create this shit perception. And also, who wants to be the one that wins the championship when Kyle Larson's ineligible? We're already in this spot.
This is a good point.
Who you know what I'm saying? We're already in this spot where one race in Phoenix wins you, and it's already seen as cheap. Now it's going to be seen as cheap even more when Kyle Larson wins that bitch.
Yeah.
And at Phoenix, and he's not in the Final Four because of a technicality. That's super annoying. So how about this? If you are racing it and you make yourself playoff eligible with a win, if you require a waiver for any circumstance, your win is erased. So you're right. You are playoff.
You have to win again.
Yes, you have to win again to secure yourself. Right. Otherwise, you have to point your way in. That way, across the board, people injury commit, and then I would be willing to say injury, not being doctor cleared to race the car, is the only thing that can preserve a win for the Senate for the waiver. Anything else you miss because of the double, you get suspended or whatever the case may be.
Even if the injury happens outside of your NASCAR duties,
if you are not because it's not just the safety of the driver, it's the safety of everybody else. If you are not cleared to race because I don't want to do the whole thing of like you shouldn't race outside the track. If you are not doctor cleared under any circumstance, this also helps if somebody accidentally hurts himself. You know what I'm saying? A driver should just
or a medical condition that is not injury related.
Right. So doctor's note is the essentially is the only thing. Not being medically cleared to drive the car is the only thing that'll preserve a win. Everything else, fine. Go right ahead. Miss a race, dipshit. And now you've got to re-win. Is Kyle Larson worried about that? No.
No.
Well, to that same point though, if you've got multiple wins, does that wipe them all?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And my brain, you choose, because the rule right now is not playoff eligible if you miss a race at all. I feel like the season's too long for that. I mean, think about all the guys we've had miss races. Birth of a child, right? That's a big thing, right? A lot of dads want to be present to the birth of their child type scenario. Jimmy Johnson got COVID. COVID still exists. We haven't seen it affect NASCAR. It just don't get started in my comment section talking about COVID. Is it fraud? We're not talking about it. It's not a politics podcast, but it is something that has led to a driver not driving, and people still are testing positive. So that is what it is.
There's the Noah Gragson type scenario.
The Noah Gragson type scenario for sure.
Kind of get a little
trouble. right. And all the various scenarios that occur. Bowman breaks his back. Elliott breaks his leg. Suspensions. What else? I mean, there should be, death in the family. Like, I'm saying, there was an Xfinity driver at Darlington that almost, had a driver on standby because they were going through some stuff. You should be able to do those things and go.
These guys are human people with lives and families.
Right.
Because this is one of the things about this exact scenario is, like, I feel like so much of the discussion about this general subject of anybody attempting to argue against the granting of Larson's waiver is there's a lot of there's a lot of discussions about moving goalposts. There's a lot of discussions about what it should and shouldn't be. It's a lot of manufactured scenarios on both sides of this point. But to that same point, the other thing is that's NASCAR. Like, things change in NASCAR. Things move. The rules on a regular basis are about as stable as what a catch is in the NFL when it comes to NASCAR. Hardline rules are pretty few and far between in this sport when it comes to what happens with points, when it comes to deductions, when it comes to things like waivers, when it comes to extenuating circumstances. And that's one of the things about NASCAR that does make it pretty unique, is that there is a lot that happens on the fringes. And that's fine. I mean, we can love it and hate it, but it is part of the game. So to that same thing is, like, there are numerous scenarios in which you could say that. I like the idea of, you suspend the playoff eligibility aspect of the win. You're not ripping trophies out of guys' hands.
Right.
You're not, you're not eliminating the fact that they won a race.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe you think twice about racing those dirt track races near the end of the season, because the last thing you need.
Right. It changes the calculus a little bit. And Jeff, to your point though, like, you and I listened to the teardown the day after the race with Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck. And you and I were both kind of like, Jordan Bianchi's on one, man. Like, what is he talking about? The guy was just going crazy. But, like, I listened to it again this week. And what he is saying makes some sense. And the reason why I specifically say we need a rule in place for the weather for the Indy 500 for drivers doing the double is because he said, and he's right, time and time again, Kyle Larson and Rick Hendrick said, the 600 is our priority, the 600 is our priority, the 600 is our priority. And then when the chips were down, they showed that it was not their priority, right? So it's like, I could understand NASCAR being annoyed with that. When you put it in those terms, right? NASCAR was told time and time and time again, the 600 is Kyle Larson's priority on this day. And then when the day came, that was not the case, right? So, like, I understand the point of they went against their word, right? I get that. And if you're NASCAR, you need to hold people accountable in your sport when they go against their word. This particular instance, they shouldn't have to think about that, though. Right? It should just be, he just gets the waiver. Like, it's just that simple. Right?
I knew that priority. I knew that priority shit was some bull the moment he qualified P5.
Sure.
Kyle Larson's too competitive. I knew they were,
Right.
and he's in Indy. Like, he's in
It's his dream,
Indianapolis.
dude. Like,
He's not
let
leaving,
this-
bro.
Let your most talented guy on your biggest team go
Right.
do the thing.
Because who
Like,
knows, right? They
it's
do it the
not
next
that
year,
hard.
and maybe they don't have the speed, but because the motorsport's ever changing, right? So maybe next year he's thinking, well, what if I don't have the speed? I've got a top 5 ride right now. I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be. I'm locked in. And the 600 had potential rain delays at 6 o'clock that day, 8
Both
o'clock that
races
night.
had-
So
yeah.
it's like, it's the same weather system. So it's like, it's not going to be the double, but I can do both.
Right.
Perfect world is it rains so much at Indy, they postpone to Monday and we get a fake double. Jeff was adamant that it doesn't count as a double, but at least
That's
him
right about
competing,
that.
at least him competing in both races to full capacity. But either way,
Anyway, I'm
Bell
glad he got his waiver, and he should have got his waiver.
got his waiver, so he's still in. Bell wins the race, and that's the end of the 600 weekend. Let's get to this weekend.
Terrible ending. Terrible ending.
It is what it is. It
We
sucks
sat
so
there till
much.
12th. The worst ending. I've never booed Chris Bell in my life.
It-
Booed everybody leaving that.
I will
place
say
that
this:
night. Heartbreaking.
the last thing I'll cap off with the trip was it was the greatest birthday present for you guys to get down there and spend the weekend, fellas. Nick looked over at me. That's the first time I'd seen Nick since like we were in the Navy together from 2013, and we were in Hawaii together till 16 when he went to the Middle East, and then I got out. So I hadn't seen him since he left and went to Bahrain. So like that was a big weekend for us, and we were just sitting next to each other after the rain delay. It's like it's like midnight, or it was like no, because they called at around 11:45. So it's like 11:19. We just moved seats. We're sitting there. We're waiting on the rain, and Nick looks over to me. He goes, "Dude, there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be right now than waiting for this race to get started." And I could just feel the energy all weekend. That it was just everybody needed it. Jose looked at me and goes, "Dude, I needed this." So for me, I just
Huge letdown.
the rain hurt. That's fine, but for me, the weekend with the boys to have that many people and everything just go so smooth throughout everything, to have all that experience, top 3 weekend of my whole life by far.
For
Even
sure.
even with the 600 getting rained out, like
It was the most NASCAR thing ever, dude. The rain will come.
I hope my
Just
favorite.
when you
Yeah.
least want it to happen, the
Oh,
rain will come.
I do. I mean, shit. Let's get a NASCAR towards Africa, and we will solve any. We won't even need any more wells in Kenya.
Dude, if
we will
go
get
to Phoenix,
so much
it
rain.
will rain in Phoenix. That's
Yeah.
what will happen. If we go to the
Well,
championship race, it will rain.
Corey and I were saying that on the way, like when we were on our way home from the race that night, we were just because we've seen multiple races delayed or canceled.
Dude,
or,
every race y'all go
given our
to.
Dover fiasco last year, or the Dover from the year before, where we, got rained out and like all that kind of
Richmond
stuff.
this
And we were
year.
both saying, we're like, man, I'm only going to races in like Vegas and Phoenix now. Like, I'm only
dude.
going to the desert.
Dude, my rant after was, I mean, it was worthy, but the skinny is this. If they can move the Daytona race off of July 4th like they have, I think you can move to 600.
I mean,
I am
I have no take on this because
Memorial Day weekend race needs to be in Charlotte.
Sure.
I get it. Okay. So what do we do with the fact that it always rains in fucking May in that area? What do? We race the Roval, boys.
no,
Yeah.
dude.
You got the wet tires. Race the Roval in the rain, and then move the 600 to October as a playoff race, a Crown Jewel 600 playoff race, where in the fall we don't get that shitty weather all the time. It doesn't rain like that all the time in North Carolina.
Mhm.
So
That's not the worst idea I've ever heard.
if it
but
happens next year, if the 600 gets rained out again next year, because all right, there's nothing I hate more than Crown Jewel races not going as scheduled. I am so over watching the Daytona 500 happen on a Monday. I'm so done with it. It's so obnoxious. And I get that to an extent NASCAR can't do anything, but I will say this. We would have got 600 miles if they fucking started it an hour earlier and didn't stop the race halfway through for a salute to the troops. Respectfully, you can do that in the beginning. Bringing everybody down and halting killed so much time, bro. Like, I don't know. It just bugs me. And people are like, oh, you don't support the troops. I am one, so shut up.
He isn't.
Like, it's a sailor, so relax, okay? All right. So, anyways, this
It was
weekend.
a great weekend. It was a great weekend.
Dude,
And it was
fantastic.
super fun. The way the race ended was unfortunate, but it's just how it is when we go to NASCAR races.
Right.
This
So,
is what it is.
so Portland was maybe one of my favorite races.
Fantastic. It's
Oh,
great every
you guys-
year, man.
Huh?
I ain't watching.
Dude, when I tell you, it was, again, masterclass. An absolute masterclass from SVG. I mean, he started second, faded back a little bit on restarts, still learning those NASCAR restarts where they get to beating and banging, and got some fender damage. And I was like, well, he's going to be rolling around in the top 10, but he's not going to have pace. Passing everybody. Allgaier was fast. Sam Mayer, who had the pole, spun himself off of SVG's nose to start the race. So he recovered. I think he finished with the top 5. It was just, the track looks great. There's tons of passing opportunities. SVG was complete masterclass, got himself in the right spot, and then completely crossed up Justin Allgaier. And then, of course, the burnout drifting, the signature. Apparently, that's a thing that he does in V8 supercars. Just drifting around in an Xfinity car at full speed around Portland was extremely impressive in that regard. So, I don't have much anymore other than that. I mean, again, I know I've kind of admitted that SVG is going to be my favorite Xfinity driver. Wouldn't be surprised if he becomes one of my favorite
I
Cup.
cannot wait to see him run a full Cup schedule, man.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be at Sonoma next week, so that's exciting. He'll be doing both races. So we got back-to-back road courses, but I think it'll be very interesting to see how he gets to run the rest of the ovals, knowing there's no stress about competing and winning. He just needs to learn them now. And he had mentioned in his Instagram, I was just like, the stress of winning is gone. We're in the playoffs. Now, learn everything I can about ovals. And I really think that might take the edge off a little bit because he's already been doing
Learn
it
what a
well.
foot is.
Well, until the playoffs get here.
Right.
Like,
Well, when the playoffs
it'll
get
take
here,
the edge off for the end of the regular
but here's the
season.
thing. SVG knows he's going to Cup. That's not a question. He's not like all the other guys who are battling for their next chance at Cup. His ride is secured once they get that third charter if they haven't already gotten it. Lock that in, right? That's not the problem. The problem is, how do I be competitive in tracks I've never raced before? So now he just gets to learn that. I'm going to be honest with you. He gets in the playoffs. I don't know what the Xfinity playoff, if it's the same, but I know Cup has 2 road courses. He's just got to survive, be decent, win the one. Yes, the pressure is going to be to win the Roval race. I get that. But also, he's going to finish top 10, top 5 probably in Xfinity points. Cool. Now go to Cup. You already got your ride. You already know you're pretty much guaranteed a playoff appearance in Cup with how many road courses we got. So it'll be very interesting to see his second race this year in Cup for the road courses because he did Dakota. But just great race. So if you've got it at DVR'd, or I think they might have already uploaded it to NASCAR on YouTube, I highly recommend going back, watching them just absolutely throw those things sideways. Portland,
Xfinity has. Let me jump in on you. Xfinity has Roval in the first round. So it's Xfinity playoffs is Kansas, Dega, Roval, Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville, Phoenix. So there's only one road course, and it's the Roval in the playoffs.
Okay, so maybe they have a shorter playoff schedule than Cup does. Now Gateway. I didn't get to watch Gateway. It was my we were doing wings. I stole the Mambo wings, Jeff. Great idea. Very delicious. Also I did some garlic honey Brussels sprouts with prosciutto. So
right.
Yeah, that was a trademark there. But anyways, I didn't get to catch the extremely entertaining Gateway race. How'd it go?
It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst Gateway race I've ever seen. It wasn't as bad as last year.
Saw some
It was-
side by
it was
side.
okay.
Bell looked quick on the few things that I saw.
It was the Bell and Blaney show for the most part. Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch getting together was kind of weird. Kyle Busch has been doing this thing lately where he just runs into people. I don't know what the deal is there. I guess that's a Kyle Busch thing.
That looked like Larson got a little sideways though, right? Like maybe he got a little loose inside
Kyle
of
Busch
him.
was busy overreacting to something that Kyle Larson
Okay.
It was very.
I saw
odd.
maybe some
And
contact.
especially
He's
after
getting
the
frustrated
shenanigans
with
we
where
saw
he's
from
at.
him in
You
the
can see
All-Star
it.
race. What he did in the All-Star race that prompted the whole Stenhouse thing. Something's up with Kyle Busch. He's not a happy boy right now.
Yeah.
He's frustrated,
but-
dude. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of one of those things where, like, anyway, there's Fuzzy has arrived. But yeah, no, it was a decent race. The Blaney and Bell show was kind of cool. Them duking it out for the last like 25, 30 laps was cool. And then both of them have car trouble. Like,
Right.
I mean, Bell, I guess, blew a cylinder or two.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Take me back to the
he lost
2000s where you're running that shit too hot and you blow things. That's the only thing Gateway's good for, bringing back the 2000s mechanical failures, right? With all the brake rotor bursting. That's the only reason. And pyro.
When he ran out of gas. Like, I mean,
I heard he was screaming. Heard he was livid.
That was it. Like, so the ending to that race, I mean, like, you could have watched the last 25 laps and gotten a really good summary of what generally happened, because
meaningful things.
Right. It's not like so I would say one of the things that was a little better about this year with Gateway, there were more passing opportunities. You did see at least a couple more lines that could get run that allowed for the race to be a little more open. But for the most part, it was typical in a lot of ways. But when you got down to those last 25 laps, you were really starting to actually ask some questions, because there's always the what if you had the last caution question. But, I mean, what was it? The last Gateway race was green flag the entire way around, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think
Blaney pitted 3 times in the entire race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was, like, it just generally, you know, if your car
It's a 300 miler, right?
Yeah, it's a shorter race.
Yeah, it's a shorter race.
A few drivers have commented on that one, and that one specifically. But it's like you got towards the end of that race, and you're watching Blaney and Bell go at it, and it was just quality racing, right? They're just back and forth, like chasing each other, getting onto each other's bumper, the eventual pass that's happening for the lead. Things are just, you know, generally going pretty well. Like, incidents are happening over in pit road. People are getting hit by cars. Fox isn't showing it, and Mike Joy's going crazy. Like, all kinds of crazy stuff going on during this race. And then you're down to those last few laps, and Bell is on a tear and making his move, and I'm sitting there going, yes, let's go. Let's get this going. And all of a sudden, he sinks like a stone. And you're going, oh no. And they played his radio at just the perfect time, because he was just like, they tried to cut to his radio as he had got into a good position and he was running, and they cut to it just at the right time where he was like, I'm overblown. It's game over. It's done. Like, he literally said it's game over, because his engine, like, something within his engine just blew.
And he ended up with a top 5 out of the
Martin
best.
Truex Jr. coming in with the hero ball.
Finn, did you see what Truex was doing?
No, what happened?
Okay,
he pushed Bell, dude. It was great.
Bell's engine blows up, right? But he's still getting around the track. So Truex, like a lap down or 2, gets behind Bell, and on every straightaway is just giving him a shot. And they were like, on the laps when Truex was behind Bell, he was like 7/10 faster, because Truex is on his bumper just shooting him into the turns. It was crazy. Like, you know, my Cole Custer thing, right?
Yeah.
I love to see, I am impressed by teamwork in NASCAR. When I see team members doing good team stuff, Martin Truex Jr., I mean, he set the bar at a whole other level now.
And got a top 5 out of it?
Bell got a top 5 after his engine blew up.
That's insane.
From Truex just pushing him around the track.
That's absurd. I need to go watch that.
Video of the week, like somebody made a video where it was like the scene from Cars, where Lightning McQueen is pushing the 43 out onto the track and trying to get him to finish, and it's costing him there. He's like, you know, this is gonna cost you the race and this and that, and he's like, but I'd rather see you get out there and finish. Somebody posted that, but like with the 19 and the 20, like, it's
funny.
It's just
Speaking of Lightning McQueen, he made an appearance on the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Life-size McQueen was dope.
As with the City Chevrolet car.
I'll go watch it back.
The last 30
well,
laps
here's the problem, Corey. I recorded it, and then I went to go turn it on and watch the race, and it was pickleball. I recorded Fox.
You must have recorded Big Fox.
I recorded Fox. No, I'm just joking. I recorded the right race. I'm just picking at Jeff, who was all pissed off that NASCAR's doing or that Fox is choosing pickleball over NASCAR in terms of major sports for Sunday afternoon airing.
Ratings were probably higher.
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah. How about the
People love pickleball
how about the
all of a
Progressive commercial during the SVG drifting, because they went side by side during the celebration of SVG winning a race, and it's just him drifting, and it's like some shitty Flow commercial or whatever they do for Progressive these days. Yeah,
Amazing.
Anyway,
makes
go
sense.
watch it on YouTube. Definitely worth. Like the last 30 laps were very interesting.
Right,
You will enjoy them.
So Cindric gets the win. Does your
Yeah.
perspective of Cindric in the two change as a result?
No,
Me
this is
neither.
the most backing us into a win that. I've
Well,
seen
he
at
was
NASCAR.
fast. I will say this:
Sure.
I did see
He was
Cindric. I
gonna
mean,
not win, though.
he
He shouldn't have won.
started P2. He was a third place car. Wins the race. I think that's what it really comes down to. Is like you haven't been fast anywhere else. Like Penske's pretty fast here, right? I know Logano won the second race here. I think Kyle Busch won the first that I've seen. So we know that they're fast. But yeah, I don't think Cindric. But there's the thing is, man, like we talked about earlier, 9 playoff drivers now. Cindric's one of them. We got Larson, Bell, Cindric, Byron, Hamlin, Keselowski. A shout out to Keselowski. He's finished top 3 in 3 straight races.
6 is quick.
Rocket
He's
ship.
up. And this is what I mean. We've talked about it before on the pod, but I've tried to tell you not that you disagree, but I just try to tell you, like, dude, Keselowski is the real deal, bro. When you get him in a fast car, he is a championship. Seen it. Case in point. The 6 is unreal right now, especially at 1.5 miles, right? It looks like he's lost all of
Something.
he's lost all his touch at road courses, but super speedways and 1.5 miles, watch out for the 6. Hamlin, of course, has got his 3 wins. Reddick, and then Elliott, but then you've got Suarez. So Suarez, Cindric are kind of the outliers. Those are my Stenhouses right now. Those guys do not have top 10 speed every week at all. One track, Cindric got lucky in the best way possible. I say that as a Bowman fan and watched him win Pocono when Kyle Larson blew a tire in the last turn. I know what it feels like. But we're getting closer to the playoffs, and there's less tracks that are people's specialties, right? Coming up, Sonoma, Iowa with the repave. Y'all heard about that?
Yes.
So they repave.
Only like part of the track got repaved.
Yeah, the bottom lane and the turns. Apparently, people are pissed.
That'd be weird.
Apparently, it's not racing well. So that'll be interesting to see. And then New Hampshire, which normally, this will be a weird one. Normally, Eric Almirola wins New Hampshire, and everybody forgets the race even existed. But he's not going to be there. So my point is,
So who do we have that doesn't have a win that we think should
have a win right
got
now? Joey Logano should have a win right now.
Truex has no wins.
Right.
Ty Gibbs does not have a win. Do we think Gibbs is going to get a win?
I think Gibbs is close. Oh, he's so close. He's qualifying so well. He's another one.
Bowman, Chastain, Blaney, Busher,
Right.
Joey Logano, Kyle Busch. Like,
I
there's
think
some big name guys here that
I don't see Busch winning a
don't have
race
a win
anytime
yet.
soon. I don't see Bowman winning a race anytime soon. And I say that because there's what I think I'm noticing is Bowman's best tracks are Blake Harris's worst tracks as a crew chief. And I'm just not seeing like them get it done on their best tracks. It was really pleasant to see him running top 5, even top 3 at times at the 600. But like, we're just not lining up on the good tracks for Bowman. And that's how he's going to win races, at his best track having his best day. I do think, New Hampshire, Iowa, Sonoma, those are tracks that are tailor-made for a guy like Truex. Truex has won Sonoma a couple times.
Yeah.
It will be interesting with the road course ringers and, like we mentioned, SVG and those guys as well. But again, I don't think, outside of Truex, I don't think a non-playoff eligible driver wins that, or full-time. I think it's either going to be SVG or it's going to be Hamlin, who also dominates Sonoma, or Elliott or Larson or Byron, right? Those are Reddick's the other road course. Like, all the road course racers have already won. So I don't see Truex's shot there. Iowa will be a crapshoot because, again, it's back on the schedule. It's new. And then New Hampshire's a weird one. I think if you were fast at Worldwide Technology, expect to be fast at New Hampshire, right? Because similar style of track. So Blaney probably and Logano have an opportunity there. The point is the slots are low. And Suarez and Cindric.
7 slots left.
Yeah, and
7 slots left with some
Right.
big name guys with no wins.
Let's not forget the 4 that's shown quite a bit of speed here lately with these shorter tracks that are coming up. He could be a player for sure. So
Gregson.
I feel like he's slowed down quite a bit. You know who's really quick right now? Not going to win a race. Justin Haley.
Yeah.
He finished 9th at Gateway. He's been putting some things together. I want to note this. Haley, I don't know what Ryan Blaney's contract situation is like, but I know this. I know Keselowski is one of the reasons Blaney has a ride. I genuinely think that, and I saw it earlier, read it, I think Blaney could be a candidate to be the 3rd RFK driver. I don't know what his contract status is with Penske, if he's signed an extension since his championship or whatever the case may be. But if anybody could leave Penske right now in pursuit of a better ride, I think Blaney makes a lot of sense.
Brad K is also the reason why Chase Briscoe has a Cup ride. And Chase Briscoe is basically going to be a free agent.
True.
He's not going to have to fight with
Penske. BK, Brad and Junior are a good reason for most of the and Joe Gibbs. Like those are the 3 current places that you came up. You know what I'm saying? Like Bowman drove for Brad Keselowski Racing, and Cindric did as well, and Briscoe did as well, and those guys have had eyes for talent. But I know they're really, really close because when Blaney came into the 12, the 2 was run by Keselowski. He was kind of the veteran leadership of Penske. And I don't think Logano leaves. I think Logano's pretty stuck in the 22 as the flagship. I think Cindric is, because of that win, Cindric's going to be in the 2 for 5 more years. Great. My
opinion of Cindric changed not at all.
None, but I think at the end of the day,
not at all.
Wins keep beat dudes in seats for some reason. So
I'll contend with that one a little bit in the sense that, just general likability points. Gained a few with me, like when he got out of there and just
wasn't unlikable though already. He's just a goober, dude. He's like the Mario Kart guy that just wears glasses all the time. Like that's Austin Cindric. He has his entire personality is glasses. Like that's his personality.
Yeah, I don't hate Cindric. I think
that's the take.
I mean, if you watched him when he was in his Xfinity ride, yes, it was a big, he was a juiced up ride.
I know what that means.
But he's got good racecraft. I think he's talented at a lot of different styles of tracks. His style just is not translated to the next gen cars. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't fault him for that. There's a lot of guys whose style has not transitioned to next gen. But yeah, it doesn't move the needle for me. And I'm going to be honest with you. Again, defending champion, still a young guy. If there's a chance to hop ship to a better ride, Blaney could make a move for that since,
He won a championship. What better ride is he going to get?
If you're telling me right now the Penske ride,
won the championship,
but he didn't.
The defending champion.
Yes, but that's if you're all right. So nobody would say right now, Corey, you are a young prospect. You've got a year to drive. Take away your Ford bias. What team do you want to go to? 1 year, win the championship, or your whole family dies. What car are you getting in? You getting a Penske ride or a Hendrick ride?
Did I just get done winning a championship in an existing ride?
Sure, you just won in the 12. Are you coming back in the 12? Chaos.
That I just won the championship in.
How many wins does Penske have this year?
Okay.
One. And
sure.
It came because a Toyota had to blow the fuck up, and another dude had to forget how to do math.
Well, the other Penske, okay.
Right.
The other Penske car. Dude,
that 12 is not fast.
They kill at Phoenix.
They kill it. That's great. He's fast at Phoenix. But if you're telling me that the 12 is in any way a premier ride, I'd wager right now the 12 is not even a top 5 ride in NASCAR right now. Neither is the 22. I do not want to be in those cars. If you want to compete and win races in this sport, the 12 and the 22 are not it. They're not it. I would take the 17 over the both of them.
They literally
today.
Won the last 2 championships.
Exactly, sure. And that just tells you that the championship process is flawed. It's not like we have like a legit other sports playoff. I think everybody knows this. Everybody knows this.
Your point is not that we're changing the championship process.
No, you said
if I'm trying to win championships, what ride do I want to be in? The 2 rides that won the last 2 championships.
No. What was your statement into which I brought the question up? Which was you talking about Why would he want to leave? He's the defending champion that ride. If you're good enough, you go to a faster car and you can still win the championship. They're falling apart. Penske, dude, his crew chief can't do fucking fuel mileage right. When was the last time we saw somebody run out of fuel and it wasn't on a fuel saving run? We've seen guys run out of fuel because they pushed the limits. These guys were supposed to be 20 laps to the good.
I grant you, this was dumb.
It's too many things,
bro.
They are slow. Penske, until the other day, the team that's got back-to-back championships. How many races into the season are we? We're in June, and and the back-to-back champions have a combined 0 wins. Do they have any polls?
I don't know. They're gonna figure it out.
That's great, but don't tell me they're a premier ride. They're not.
Well, they have been the last 2 years.
If Blaney has a chance to hop ship, there are way better rides than the 12. Being good at Phoenix is great, and that's awesome. But like the sport, people don't really care about the champions in NASCAR. We don't parade the champions.
Oh my God.
We do not.
Now we've just gone completely off.
What do we do? Who's the best? All right, who's the most recognized driver in the sport?
Bro,
not the champion. Not the champion.
I don't know.
Listen, this is unfortunate, and I'm not. Listen, I agree that champions should matter, but come on, let's be honest with you. The fact that our sport comes down to one final race of the season, we don't care about the people are not. All right, would you put Brian? Well, you probably would. Nobody's putting Ryan Blaney in their top 5 drivers in NASCAR.
I did last year.
The dude has less than 15 career wins.
Number 1 driver in NASCAR last year.
He's got less than career 15. Like he has less than 15 career wins. Or if you look back again, point case the Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick season when Chase Elliott won the championship. Who won a third? Oh, actually, who won? Yeah, it was over a third of the races of NASCAR was Denny and Harvick. And who wins the championship? Chase Elliott, who had a good day at Phoenix. Like, what are we doing here?
That's not the question. The question is not, is the system stupid? The question is...
No, I suggested that Blaney should jump shit to Keselowski, and you said, why should he leave? Because the 12 is like an elite ride or something. It's not.
The root of your question is, would Ryan Blaney have a better chance of winning a championship if he changed rides? Right? That's the root of the question.
The root of the question is, I'm saying that Keselowski should be a candidate to move Blaney would be a candidate to move Keselowski because they are the premier 4 team. They are fast every week, and Penske is majorly struggling. That is the premise of why I suggested it. And then you said, why would he leave? He's in the championship ride. First of all,
if he could take his entire team along with him, sure.
Dude, him out of the car in a Keselowski car. Who doesn't need the crew chief? Crew chief can't do math. Also, this is a team that has underperformed for all up until the very, very end of last year. Did they go on a good little run? Great. I'm happy you won Martinsville. But here's the deal, bro. They're what are they on multiple seasons now? Actually, last year they won the 600, so they were fine. But 2 of the last 3 years, they're going into playoffs on points, didn't he?
I don't know.
He went into playoffs on points the year before last year. This is, you know what I'm saying? This is not a team that's winning throughout the first 26 races of the year consistently enough to where it's like we're a lock for the playoffs.
You sound like
chaos.
a Dallas Cowboys fan.
It's chaos. Listen, is Penske a good team? Great. Are they probably going to figure it out? Great. They're not even the best 4 team, much less a good team that if I'm a championship driver, I'm hinging my team or my future on like, oh yeah, Penske's going to figure it out. The fact that Logano, 0 wins right now, bro.
You're just looking at the near term, dude.
I'm looking at the near term.
Yes.
The best driver last year was William Byron.
Penske drivers won the last 2 championships.
Correct.
If your point is championships don't matter, then we disagree.
I'm not saying championships don't matter. I'm saying nobody's using the championship stat as an evaluator of how good the rides are and how good the speed is on the car. Everybody and your mom agree.
Now, sure.
The last 5 years, be in a Toyota or a Hendrick car. That is what it is. That is where the speed is. Be in a Hendrick or a Toyota. If you have the opportunity to be in Hendrick or Toyota, you go. Because that's where the speed is. That is where the best teams are.
I thoroughly enjoy coming in third in the round in the final round of the playoffs because that's what's going to happen. Because
Listen,
a random Ford from Penske is going to blow past you at Phoenix.
sure,
and your season's
all
gonna
right,
end in
sure,
disappointment.
it happened then, but like that all hinges on the fact that Penske, a team that can't win races for 26 races, has to now figure out how to win a race in the next 7 races to then get to there. Like with the way the structure is, they've gotten lucky and they've gotten their wins early enough to get in the playoffs and just stumble and bumble through. They're not good right now. Blaney doesn't have an identity.
I agree. They're not good right now. I agree with that. Completely.
They weren't even above average last year. Ryan Blaney was not even above average last year until they got to Martinsville. Then he won Martinsville. Then he won Phoenix. That's it.
Yeah.
He had an average season, won Martinsville, a track where, guess what? We all agree that next gen sucks at and nobody can pass.
Sure.
So he wins Martinsville on what we would
nobody
all
pass?
consider, huh?
Who could
Nobody can pass anybody. Logano had what was it? 40 lap tires on his left sides. My point remains. I did not say championships don't matter. I said nobody's looking at championships to evaluate what a good ride is. Ryan Blaney, I would admit Ryan Blaney will do mine's better. And in fact, I would be more impressed. And if I was Ryan, I would rather be in a RFK car right now and win 3 races a year and get no championship than win 1 race a year and get to Phoenix. And oh my God, Penske is so ass and halfway out of the sport anyways. Like, it's so obvious that they're just not even locked in at all. Every week they unload slow.
I got to tell you, if everything
awful.
you're saying is true, then we need to change the playoff system. Because if
that
they're
is
halfway out of the
that is a
sport-
given.
But hold on, guy. Hold on. If they're halfway out of the sport and their rides suck,
Dude, they're
and
awful.
RFK is so much better, they just can't stop winning championships.
No, it's because, again, a shitty playoff system. Again, all right, I'll agree. Let's do it at Watkins Glen. Let's do championship at Watkins Glen. Why not?
Sure.
Why not? Let's do the race. And as soon as you say that to people, everybody goes, oh, yeah, the whole one race thing seems pretty dipshitty. Let's just hand it off to the best road course racer in the Final Four. It's awful. It's an awful track, and we all agree. So I don't understand why we're changing it now. We all agree that Phoenix is a dipshit track. We all agree that one track to win it all. So don't now that it conveniently suits you to ride the Ryan Blaney won a champion. He's a champion. It's not like football where it's like we play the same sport every week, and we get some shitty track.
If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and let's change it, brother.
Penske, listen, if we race, listen, the day that they make all 36 races at NASCAR at Phoenix is the day I will take a Penske ride over a Hendrick ride. But for now,
well, we knew that already.
Yeah. Or I'll take a Gibbs ride. I'll take a Trackhouse ride at any track that isn't fucking Penske right, or that isn't Phoenix right now. Penske is so bad. It's incredible that you are wasting. Listen, I have my Ryan Blaney vendetta.
Man,
I like Ryan
they
Blaney.
literally, Jeff, they won the race 2 days ago.
Dude.
The team that he's talking about. They won the race 2 days ago.
Austin, the guy that you said the win didn't change your perspective.
Who was also on Penske.
No, because the guy leading the race with 5 laps to go blew an engine.
He was not leading the race. He caught Ryan Blaney and could barely pass him. He was ahead of Blaney for like a lap.
So he was ahead of him. So he was ahead of him.
He caught Blaney. He had got ahead of him for 1 turn. Blaney
they were racing.
him up, and Bell could never get back by him again. That was it.
Either way,
it was the Penske show.
Yeah, I'm glad, and it's a shit show track that races just like Phoenix. And guess what? He didn't win because they couldn't do. How about this? Maybe the only reason he was fast was because he was blowing all his fuel. You know, maybe lift a little bit, Ryan. Maybe save your shit. There's nothing in the car. You're a world-class race car driver. Can't tell if you're running out of fuel or not. What are we doing here? I love Ryan.
I mean, I don't disagree. That is painfully dumb to run out of gas at a track that's a mile long.
I don't really blame Ryan. I joke, but seriously, Penske is in such a bad spot. My point was originally, if I'm Blaney, I want out. I'd want out of Penske. They are just, and they're stacking up the frustrating defeats. And then now, I don't think Blaney should abandon Penske for any ride, right? Don't go to front row. Don't go to do it. You know, I'm not saying he has to abandon, but like RFK with that history, it was interesting because it came from a thread where they got out of the cars and the first thing Keselowski did was walk over to Blaney and console him. And then they were talking about like, you know, it's interesting if Blaney's looking for somewhere to maybe go. Obviously, that's a huge overreaction. Like he's probably not ready to go. I'm sure Penske has plans, but Something is
Probably
show.
another chance.
For example, right? For like SHR makes sense. They got the lack of Ford support, whatever. Keselowski Racing has shown that I don't think there's a problem in speed with the Fords anymore.
Not anymore. Not in those Fords.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's a lack of info sharing between those two teams, but right now, I mean, I'm considering taking. I mean, I don't know what that bracket looks like, bro, but if I have to put money on Justin Haley or Joey Logano finishing higher in a race right now, it's a tough decision. I'm not choosing Haley necessarily, but it's a tough decision, bro, that a Rick Ware car is outperforming the 22. Like, it's bad in Penske right now, dude. Like, in fact, I would rather be an SHR driver. You want to know why? Because I don't have to be there next year, and it's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? I got options. If you're a Penske driver, you're locked into maybe Ford's biggest shit show next year. Because somebody has to be the worst Ford team.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't want to.
Hey, I will say this: if I'm today trying to pick which team wins a championship this year, I'm taking Penske.
I'm taking Joe Gibbs, bro.
Okay, that's fine.
Taking Joe right now. If I gun to my head, who's the champion? It's probably going to be Chris Bell, dude. He's so fast right now, and it seems like the confidence of the 600. Like he was quick yesterday. Like I don't know. Hamlin too. Obviously, Hamlin's dominated the short tracks. So yeah, Jeff, soak that in. We all see Toyotas. The only
Dude, Jeff just sat back and listened to you and me argue for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I could have, like, I was highly debating, like, should I just go ahead and go, like, make a sandwich?
I mean, I wish I want
Go hang out for a
championships to matter,
while,
bro.
just,
I want championships to matter, but the best drivers are not winning the championships every year, and that's not like that in any other sport. Any other sport we look at and go, the only time that I could think of recently that we look at a team and go, wow, the best team did not win a championship this year was when Brock Purdy destroyed his elbow against the Eagles, and we didn't get like a fair Eagles versus Niners game. So then we had to deal with the Eagles and the Chiefs, and I still think the Chiefs win that.
Hold on, though, as far as like all sports, because like once again for the second year in a row, the President's Trophy team in the NHL gets eliminated.
Hockey is not a real sport. I don't watch.
Well,
sports
that about
on
wraps
ice.
things up for us this week.
I don't watch.
Jesus, do not get me started on that.
I don't watch sports on ice.
Not.
The only
The
only thing that belongs on ice is Disney. Okay, Disney on ice, baby. Who cares about hockey, dude?
Bro, press the
Plenty
mute
of
on this
people
man.
care
If
This
you-
man is on one today, Jeff.
If you're not willing to,
God,
if
what a just awful take.
the best of
But that
hockey's
was-
behind us, Wayne Gretzky's done. Who cares? I'm tired of seeing a bunch of like Russians and just
Bro.
skate in circles and fight. Like I don't know.
You sleep on hockey.
Yeah, okay. I do sleep.
Bad.
I start the game up and right out, dude. Right out. I know you Ovechkin nerds up in DC probably have a different perspective, but down here in the Carolinas, dude, the Hurricanes
No,
won
you
a
mean the
champion.
Carolinas from the team that has one of the more popular teams in the
No,
league,
dude,
From the entire
you
play-
would
one
be
of the more fun
surprised.
teams in all of the NHL.
No,
From
you
one of
would,
the teams that just got
Bro.
through the second round of the playoffs.
dude.
Stop.
This is what I'm gonna do this
Stop.
weekend.
You know nothing about what you're talking.
This is what I'm gonna do, Jeff. I'm gonna get out this weekend.
On the farthest limb
Jeff,
right now.
Jeff,
Holy
this is what I'm
crap.
gonna do. Jeff, I'm gonna start a live stream on Saturday morning, and I'm gonna drive around North Carolina until I see a Carolina Hurricanes flag or logo
Will not take
somewhere.
long.
And I
That
promise
will
you,
not take long.
it
will
will
not
take
take long.
That
multiple
will not
days.
take long at
I,
all.
bro,
It
I
will
would
take-
I
Tell
would
them in
legitimately-
Charlotte.
It will
Finn.
take
No.
multiple days.
If
No,
it takes
it will not.
if it takes more than half an hour, I'll give you
Dude,
$20.
It is going to
Finn,
take
you've had
multiple
some taste,
days.
And you've had some
You guys
stuff
went
here,
to a
like,
city.
I
That's
do not know
all right. I
what
sound
you're
like a
drinking
Republican.
tonight,
The
dude.
city doesn't count as the people. Listen, when I
don't
tell
know
you,
what you're drinking, smoking.
it's
or
just
on
not
tonight.
hockey
Jesus
country.
Christ.
Where are
No,
they
I
based
don't
out of? Are they based
disagree.
out of Raleigh?
God.
They're based out of.
90% of North Carolina is probably not hockey country.
Yes, we
I
are
can
not.
see that.
It is not a hockey area,
But,
dude.
like,
No,
I can see
it
that,
is college
but-
basketball and
NASCAR.
The Steelers. Like, that's really what it is down here. There's an absurd amount of Steelers fans in North Carolina, but like hockey's just not a thing like that. We like, yes, are there hockey fans? And I'm sure Raleigh has a lot, and I'm sure like this, but it just, first of all, there's just not a whole lot of like people down here in the South are fans. They're fans of sports they play, and there's not a lot of accessible hockey in North Carolina. Does that make sense? So, like, people don't grow up playing
That was
hockey.
the only thing you said in the last 15 minutes that made sense.
Dude,
that was the only, like, coherent and, like, possibly reasonable statement you made.
Listen, you're saying popular because you're talking about popular in hockey. Yes, out of hockey fans, maybe the people that like the teams, the most popular team is the Hurricanes, but in comparison to all sports fans, hockey is not the popular sport at all. At all.
Okay.
Let's do this. I am in a sports fan in North Carolina
was not about
since I was a child. I can't name, dude. I have been a sports fan in North Carolina my entire life, except for the time I was in Hawaii. I can't name a single player that has ever played for the Hurricanes, ever. I don't know, and I grew up.
That's your fault,
dude. I grew up watching SportsCenter. I wasn't a baseball fan. I still have the Eric Gagne saves record, Barry Bonds chasing 700. Like, I still got all of that, right? Now, granted, it was a little skewed. If you would have asked me who the best shortstop in baseball history was, I would have said Jeter because of all the coverage. The whole point is the Hurricanes won a Stanley Cup. That's what it's called, right? During my time as a child, right? Didn't they win one in the early 2000s?
Yes.
No idea.
No idea who was on the team. Because it's not popular. That's my whole point. The Hurricanes just not a popular team.
Why are you on this point? That is irrelevant to what you had initially ever said.
What did I say? Nobody watches hockey down here? I said the only thing that belongs on ice is Disney.
The point was about whether or not the best team wins or not. And hockey, whether you like it or not, is still a major sport in North America.
Oh, I didn't disagree with your point about the best team. I was just saying hockey wasn't relevant as a meme.
A jackass. For the sake of being a jackass. That was the whole point, was let's go be obtuse.
What's funny is Jeff had a point to help my point about Blaney, and then I just shit on him for no reason. You didn't deserve that.
Well, fully for the last 15 minutes. Like, just
constantly.
I was there because I'm all about the idea, like, bring back the chase as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, totally.
Since we're a NASCAR podcast again, like, bring back the chase as far as I'm concerned. That's fine with me. Like, I'm certainly like, let's go.
Yeah, it's bad that the chase, the bad at playoffs is so bad that people are wanting the chase back because, Corey, if you were around when the chase was invented, holy shit. Like, yes, the fact that the tracks didn't change and Jimmy dominated was its own thing, but people genuinely hated that. And you know what? I see a point to it. I do think that
I'm gonna need at some point a 10-minute quick hitter video on this thing that I've heard of this week, which is Jeff Gordon, the 13th driver in the chase. Don't do it right now.
Oh, God.
Don't do it right now, but I don't know what this is, and I've heard about it from listening to the Teardown this week during the whole waiver thing.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'll tell you this. Watching Fox News do coverage of the race now is going to get way more annoying once you figure out who's the reason that Jeff Gordon is the 13th driver into the chase. So,
right, well, you're gonna have to tell me about it.
Do we need to record it, or do we? Oh, okay. We doing a solo vid. Oh, God, I'm gonna go do all the research again because I got to get brushed up on that knowledge. But it's a big NASCAR meme, and it involves your boy Clint Boyer. So, what you got in your hot rod, Jeff? You're in the chase. All right, take us out, Jeff.
Tell me about your hot rod. Oh, wow. Well, we are in silly season 2, as we can definitely see.
What we get for recording late.
Rolling into almost 2 hours of just...
It'd be about hour 40 for us.
It'll be an hour after we cut out all the endpoint nonsense that we got into.
No, I'm leaving that shit.
Y'all had your solid...
If anybody's listening that long into our podcast, they're lifers. They're here for it.
All 5 of you are wonderful, and we love you very much. But yeah, that's going to wrap things up for us this week. Please make sure you check us out on YouTube and Spotify under the name Intentional Rec. Please like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends. You can find us on Twitter and TikTok at IntRecPod. That's at INTWRECKPOD. Find us, follow us. Let's talk racing. Please chat things up with us. Tell Finn that he's absurd on the hockey take. All of these kind of
It's
things.
no take to be
Please
had.
reach out and hit us up on that. Otherwise, enjoy the racing, and we will catch y'all soon.
Yeah. Later.
Pete.